Oh, shit, I screwed up. There's no intro, but there you go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm still sick. Welcome to the 512th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I'm the bread maker, Travis Snell, and I'm joined by...
I am the Lord of the Rankings, Kirklin Patzer.
I am the Ranger from the North, Dylan Musk.
I'm the rank of rankings, Taylor.
Now, did you have that already, or did you have that because you were going to be Lord of the Rankings and you saw Kirklin with that name?
No, I had
used
that
name
already.
Before.
He had the rank of rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I didn't realize how similar it was till he said it. Maybe I would have, changed it in hindsight, but here we are.
Here we are.
You're the Lord.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we're doing this in the thick of things because this was trying to be done before, but it's okay because it's just kind of Lord of the Rings season here over here, GeekVerse podcast. Lots of things going on. Check out. Thank you to everybody that checked out. I think we're only actually when did Brings the Power? That's September. We're only 6 days in the month. That's our biggest episode of the year. Of the month, not the year. Don't go that far. But I'd have to check. I'd have to check and see where it is. But it's doing pretty well. So everyone, Thank you for checking that out. And we got a bunch of other reviews. She-Hulk's out. House of Dragons out. And then Andor in a couple weeks. What was I going to say? Anyways, this is Lord of the Rings rankings episode. We're going to have two mini news things at the end. One has to do with Rings of Power and stuff like that. Kirklin and Dylan, you guys had some side quest action last night / yesterday / whatever
A
you're
nice
listening to.
juicy fall gaming preview, some news, some games we've been playing. It's a nice fully, like when you get nachos and you get all the toppings on there, you get the olives, you get like the jalapenos. It was definitely
Fully
that
loaded.
kind
There
of
was
side
no
quest.
bear chip on that platter
No.
as well.
It's like when you
Everything was covered.
sneeze, isn't it?
Not exactly. Not exactly.
When you
go
do
nacho
sneeze on your
cheese to
nachos to get
sneeze.
like
Yeah,
a
that's a bad
bonus
combo.
flavor on there, I'm not into that, Taylor.
There comes another 1-star review. You and your inside references that we're not a part of.
Yeah.
Don't be
It's all
friends.
scripted. It's all
Don't
scripted,
be
don't worry.
friends.
Don't be friends.
That's what I feel like sometimes. I get it, but it's just like, you can't have inside jokes. It's just like, it's a whole after 9 thing. But, yeah, so lots of stuff going on. And then I guess, God, it's definitely because I'm recovering. Check out Last Trash Told You. But this weekend, I completely forgot, probably going to be one of our biggest weekends of the year because we got the D23 Expo. Friday, we got an extra side quest happening. It's myself and Dylan for sure. The other two, who knows? I don't even know if we're going to invite them. But yeah, it's such the two different sides of that. Join us. I don't know if we're going to invite them. But yeah, so we got that going. That's the Disney Marvel panel. So we'll be breaking that down on the Friday. Yes, that's the Friday. And then Thursday, She-Hulk. And then Saturday's the big, it's just like the Disney live action panel. It's covering Star Wars, Marvel, and 20th Century Fox. So it's going to be, presumably us four. And then we're going to be stormed in by. We're going to be joined by the Star Wars Alliance people and the Marvel Alliance people. We'll be doing the same thing where at least myself, maybe some others will be doing the live watch along part, and then right after we'll do the podcast breakdown, and should be some big juicy news from stuff we've been hearing and stuff like that. So it's going to be a good time. Taylor, where can they find all that stuff?
Ladies and gentlemen, you can find us with your internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast our Twitter. GeekVerse on our Facebook.
And then Taylor and I will be doing a Barbarian review at some point in the weekend. I don't know when I'm seeing my tickets, but at some
Fun fact about that: we're going to the theater to see Spider-Man. My mom's like, "Oh, what is that Barbarian?" I'm like, "Oh, it's like a modern day Malignant," is how I put it. And
wait, no,
modern day.
You can't say that. Malignant came out last year.
I know that's how I worded it though. And they didn't. Anyways, I digress because they didn't know what I was talking about.
Well, they don't know what Malignant is.
No.
Yeah.
They think it's some old movie, apparently.
This is a modern day Malignant. When it came out less than a year ago.
And we're the only 4 people that saw it. Yeah.
And probably, I'm sure there's other podcasts that maybe did it, but let us know. I don't know how many people had in their top 5 films of the year. We can say we did that for Golden Geeks and stuff like that. But no, I'm getting excited because the Twitter accounts tweeting out those all watching the theater and people getting scared and stuff like that. So yeah, we got a bunch of reviews coming up, and head over to Patreon. That's where you can get episodes ad-free, exclusive, early, a bunch of perks there. In the next few weeks, we're going to be recording a bunch of things. The Lord of the Rings Cinematic Universe cast, Original's going to be back, I think, next weekend. Hasn't been officially announced. There will be an After 9. So I think the next 10 days, you're going to be getting about 3 to 4 exclusive episodes going on up in there. So that's going to be good stuff there. And the more you support us, the more that comes back to the show, the channel, everything like that. Everything you like gets produced that way. A big thank you to Patreon producers Aaron Braden, April Darkness, Smalley Biggs, and Joshua Wright. And talk about in that sphere is tomorrow we'll be doing a town hall. So if you want to watch live, it will be live, but it's going to be mostly town hall. If any big breaking news happens, there will be. But we're going to be talking about the survey, and we'll take any questions as well, but that's going to be fun. We're going to kind of give you a sneak peek into what we're doing for 2023 and beyond. So talk a little bit about that. And yeah, all our links down below, how to find us, support us, all that good jazz. Head to Manscaped, 20% off, free worldwide shipping, manscaped.com, GVPOD. That's the code. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to start with the Lord of the Rings rankings, and then we're going to talk about Rings of Power ratings, and then a little sad DC news, because, it wouldn't be a week without getting some bad DC news,
We're probably on a good streak of 2 months at this point, would you say?
Yeah.
Man, boy Clay is probably just so happy with this news. He's just always hoping for the downfall of DC.
Yeah. 2 steps forward, 80 steps back. But Lord of the Rings, we did the retro. So as always, if you haven't seen it or you haven't listened to any, we reviewed literally every film that has come out for Lord of the Rings, and now we're doing the shows. So now we're doing rankings. We're ranking our top 5 scenes. People have a different mixtures of what they're doing with characters, but there's a characters rankings and there's a film ranking. So I feel like we should do the film rankings first, because I feel like that's I won't say the most boring one, but I feel like that's pretty similar and stuff like that. Now, we're all going to go at one time and Sarah picks, because we're also going to have different lists because of some of us haven't seen certain movies. So, Taylor, I'm going to start with you. Of you're ranking just the Hobbits and the Lord of the Rings movies. So,
we are including the Hobbits.
Well, I ranked all the movies in this retrospective. So,
Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
All
do you
9
need
of
a
them.
second? Do you need a second then?
Nope.
Okay, so Taylorfield, you can go then. What would you and like I said, go from descending to a top, whatever you want to do, but give us your ranking of films.
I would do Hobbit, Unexpected Journey.
This is
as
last, right?
Last, yes. Thank you.
Really? As
Number one.
last.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I would then put in 5th place. I'd probably go Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies.
Okay.
And then in 4th place, Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug.
What is it?
Desolation of Smaug.
Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. I'm not the greatest with the English, but you said something else there. You not say the desolation of small.
Desolation.
He had some Mordor speech there. It was
Yeah.
very authentic.
Yeah.
I'll be the queen.
My number 3, and this is tough. This is where I really, really just put a lot of time just thinking on these 3 here, because it was really just.
Well, those were the only 3 you were ranking at some point, right?
Yeah. So a lot of time spent into this 3. I'd put my number 3, 3rd place, is The Two Towers. And this, again, is heavily influenced after us watching these films, discussing them in depth, and I really got to really understand where I actually would stack them and how I feel about them on different levels. And because of that, Fellowship of the Ring is my number 2, which I never thought I would put it as my number 2, but it's up there now because of how we talked about it, how you guys kind of opened my eyes to just the aesthetic to it, and just what we got in that film. And I actually quite enjoy it for what it is. And when you compare it with the other 2 films, I feel like it really stands off on its own a lot more strongly than what it is. It just feels like a very humbling, different film, even colorful wise compared to the other 2. It just feels different, and I really like the things that we get with that film. And
So you're saying it was originally 3 for you, when we started this retro, you think?
it originally, I probably still had it in my number 3 slot, definitely. But my number 1, I'd still put Return of the King, just because of some of the incredible scenes that we got, and just the climactic ending of things, and just the battles and stuff. Little Taylor was all up in that stuff, so the nostalgia can't be defeated out of me for that sake. And again, the emotional things too, it's just absolutely glorious. So yeah, there you have it.
Dilmus, what's your rankings? That's someone that's seen all the. You and me are the only one that are going to have all the 9 here.
Yeah, and I guess I was the only one on all 9 of the episodes for these, interestingly. So, okay, last place, I'm going to put The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies. Now, originally I was thinking spoiler for number 8, but we did the animated ones, and there's one of these that I did not like at all. I was like, well, that's easily last place. But then I listened back to our review that we did for these Hobbits, because that was 3 years ago. It feels like 20 years ago somehow. Already so much of those movies has left my brain. But when I re-listen to that episode, I'm trusting previous self here, and I said that this is one of the top 5 worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, I don't know if I'd say that for the Lord of the Rings anime movie, that it's number 8. So Battle of Five Armies, fuck that movie. It's so bad. Saw it recently and I already forget most of it. So there you go. Five Armies. Number 8 is going to be Lord of the Rings animated movie. That's the first one. That's Fellowship and Two Towers. Just hated that art style so much. The battles sucked. It just not good. Way too much content in one shorter movie, so way too stretched out. Moving on from there, we're going to go with Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King animated. So this one, I did have... This is where I'm like... At this point on, I think there's things that I like about all these. Those bottom two are just not into those at all. But I do like this movie. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's also just a ton of stuff that's skipped over from the full story perspective. But anyway, it's got some good stuff in there. So I put that at number 7. Moving up to number 6, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, however you say that guy's name. I don't think I have much positive to say about it, to be honest, but there's some okay stuff in there. It's not as bad as Five Armies. Number 5, The Hobbit animated movie. I really like this one. I think I had a good time with it. Don't know how much I'll be rewatching it, but it's an interesting one. Number 4, I put Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey. So I don't really know why this one beat out the animated one, to be honest, but I think in this one there is still some good stuff, and particularly for me, the character of Bilbo is like really well done in those Hobbit movies. I think that's why Five Armies sucks so much, because he's like not in it at all. But you get a lot of him in this, and it's a lot of fun. You get some good Gandalf stuff and other characters, so there's some good stuff to be found in there. But these things are all a way tiers and tiers below the top 3, and yeah, my order's a lot different than Taylor's here. So coming into this, number 3, maybe not a surprise for anyone listening to the retro, but Return of the King. Just a movie that I actually do have some issues with. It's not that perfect movie for me anymore. It's damn close, but it's not quite perfect. So number 3. And then this was my big question going in this retro is I've always had that thought growing up. Two Towers, always my favorite if you ask me. Did that remain to be the case? The answer is yes. Fellowship of the Ring, I put it number 2, and Two Towers at number 1. I don't know. It's really splitting hairs. Like, the difference between them is so marginal that if you asked me tomorrow, maybe I'd switch it. The day after, maybe I'd switch it back. It's so close. Amazing movies that really have a lot of different characters that you focus on in each one. And I at the end of the day, I just decided that for the slightest differences, I'm going to put Two Towers at my number 1 slot still. And it sounds like I might be the only one who does that, so that'll be interesting. But there you go. There's my ranking.
So yes, as someone that had reviewed all 9, or not reviewed all 9, watched all 9, but not reviewed one. So that's why I'm going to start with my 9th being Return of the King, as to tell the story behind
Animated.
that. The animated one, yes.
When there's a whip, there's a way.
Yeah. If there's a whip, there's a way. To tell the story behind that is, so I watched it preparing for the retrospective, and I messaged Dylan Kirk. I'm like, I have nothing to say. And if I had anything to say, it would have been that positive. And so I've obviously been on reviews where I've been like very negative, but it was just the point where I'm like, I don't think I can add really anything to this conversation. That's why I gave them my little blurb there, because I did not enjoy that. That was a pain to watch. That felt longer than any Hobbit movie I'd ever seen. It just went on forever and ever. And the singing and the missing stuff. And I'm somebody that I agree there's some weird stuff with Lord of the Rings, but overall, like Lord of the Rings, the animated movie, but overall, I really like that dark and kind of fairy tale-esque, like urban myth sort of like art going on. Maybe not so much the actors coming in and stuff like that, but I hate this like kiddie cheap art style. I hate the directors of that took this over to fill a GeekVerse podcast trying to show us true quality.
I'm just curious, are there extended editions of these animated films?
No, these are just them.
Okay.
No. There's a different time too. This is the 70s. They weren't thinking about extended editions and stuff like that.
They could barely get the budget together.
Yeah.
To put together an hour and a half worth of content.
So I hate this movie because I'd be 2 minutes in and they're like, and there's the way, and it's just like every goddamn time. And I already hate musicals, so yeah, that one's with a bullet. I know for a fact I'm never gonna watch that
Very
again. Even
random
the kids
question.
Yeah.
Is there any animated movie that has like an extended edition? Because I feel like with animation, that just would not be. You wouldn't make extra scenes if they're not going to be in the movie, right?
There has to be though. There has to be something.
Like I'm sure there's some that maybe have some deleted scenes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there an official extended cut of any animated movie?
I feel like it wouldn't be
That's a good question.
it wouldn't be Disney or Pixar. I feel like it'd be like some other company or something like that. There
Yeah.
has to be one as far as this whole time, like because some of them could have got cut for like time budget or something like that, or maybe there was a scene that like bumped them up to a PG-13. But I guess it's just a
Right.
deleted scene then. But
There's probably some anime extended edition of some Japanese
True.
movie, I would imagine.
Yeah, 100%. And then after that, I got Hobbit: Battle of Five Armies. That movie is not the greatest. I might be watching it again in the near future because I got about 45 minutes into The Hobbit because I just was in the Lord of the Rings mood. But I didn't. I just chose to rewatch The Rings of Power episode 1 and 2 again, and that was a better choice. So, that one, that's a movie that they literally, to me, made just to get the third one. You know, they stretched it. It was butter over too much bread, meaning Battle of the Five Armies. Kirklin tried on side quest, but he failed. But don't worry, Kirklin. You go to year 1 to 3 of GeekVerse, I'd always screw it up. I'd be like, is it too much bread? No, it's just butter scraped over too much bread. Hobbit 5 easily at the second last one. I went back and forth between, and I'll tell you which ones would be 7 and 6, and that's Smog and Unexpected Journey. I have Unexpected Journey at 7 and then Smog at 6. I went back and forth. The only reason I put Smog over is because I think they have both great sequences. Hobbit first one does have quite a bit of singing, so that always takes it down for me. But I think it's just the Smog sequence I think is top tier in Desolation of Smog. Like, I think that matches some of the quality stuff that happened in Peter Jackson's original trilogy. It's really good. It's paced well. It looks great. And then we got the bonus of seeing Benedict Cumberbatch behind the scene footage. So I think that's a mix of me. But there's stuff like the very beginning of Unexpected Journey. I remember when I watched it, I always feel like, oh man, this feels like the first half an hour feels like the Peter Jackson trilogy. It's because they're in the Shire, but still, just even everything from the pacing to the script and stuff, it just kind of works. I do like Gandalf and Bilbo in that movie, but yeah, so I just gave Smog just the edge over that. So now we're at fifth place with Hobbit 77. I really like that. I was surprised. I've seen them all before, but I haven't seen them in a while. I really liked it. These are now movies in tier that I at least like and would willingly want to watch again. I have no problem if my kids are like, oh, I want to watch Hobbit the animated show. Sure. So I have that in there. And then at 4th, I got Lord of the Rings, the animated movie. I think you go back from retrospective. I think I might rate that one the highest out of all of us. I really enjoyed that. I've always enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it a lot more like watching it with the critical eye. There's some weird, strange choices in that movie. And good and bad. There's some weird art style. We talked about All Check because it's a very interesting movie when you look at it in the past and you see what they were trying to do and make work and everything like that. But I really enjoyed most of the story and the changes or chances they were taking. So that worked for me. At 3rd place, I got The Two Towers. And I'm much like Dylan, where Dylan different because he ended up at number 1. I think years ago, probably even before when we started the podcast, I think I had Two Towers at number 1 for a while, but over the years, I've grew to like the other two a bit more, and still love them. These, like I said to me, are all nearly perfect movies. There's obviously some things we told on the retro that you could go, that doesn't really work there, but Two Towers. The next at 2nd place is Return of the King, which means Fellowship is number 1. I think same like Dylan said, if you listen to retrospectives, you probably would see that coming because I just loved Fellowship, but Return of the King's the ending chapter. And I feel, honestly, maybe things could change in my life, but for the first time in a while, I'd always be like, oh, I could have this. I feel like this 3 is going to be like this for most of my life. I feel like the way Fellowship has risen to the top isn't really going to change for me, and the way Two Towers has kind of gone to the bottom 3 isn't really going to change for me because there's just certain thing like the Ents or certain thing like Legolas or like Aragorn and Arwen, which is like it's just like doesn't go too many places. So that's my list. Fellowship at number 1, again the big win there. So
all 3 of us have a different number 1 so far.
There you go. Espop says there's an extended Beauty of the Beast cut. It got cut down for theatrical release originally. So there you go. I was wrong. I thought it wouldn't be. Yeah, I thought it wouldn't be Disney, but
interesting.
Surprising. All right. So starting, I haven't seen the Peter Jackson Hobbit movies. So starting with the animated ones at the bottom, I have The Return of the King. I thought there was some fun stuff here with Sam, and just like I still like that animation, so I think that was fun. But they just cut out so much stuff for me to really really vibe with that movie as much as I could have. They just didn't really have Aragorn in it at all, and he's the king, and this movie's called The Return of the King. So yeah, number 6. Number 5, I have The Hobbit, 1977. I just felt like it just cut out so much for me to like really pass like the story delivery, I guess, of that movie. I still like some of it in there, but I think the animation just really like shocked me. So for like the first half an hour, I was just like, man, this animation is just so weird. Like, look at these dwarves. It's just, this 1977 art style isn't working for me. But and then number 4, I have the Lord of the Rings, the animated one, and I really like this one. That it was really epic, like a cinematic style that I'd never seen before. The retrograding, I think the term for that one was rotoscoping. Retrograding. That's definitely not it, but
so what do you
retro
do?
looking.
Grade retros, yeah.
But yeah, no, I really like that one. Definitely some different choices that I've seen done in Lord of the Rings before. I think I had only seen it like once before when I was a wee young lad, so it was fun to revisit it again. And then number 3, jumping to the Peter Jackson films, I have The Two Towers at the bottom of the 3, and it's crazy because like you two said, I definitely had this as my number 1 for so long when I was a young kid. I think it was like the Helm's Deep, I was just like peeking on the Legolas love train, so like it was awesome to see him like do his thing, and
just
I
going
love
down the
whole
stairs on your skateboard in the house.
yeah,
Multiple
break my
concussions.
arm. Yeah, exactly.
That's why his mouth got so small. They had to like compression his head.
Wow. Compression, love it.
I should have said compressed, but you got
That
it.
word
Compression.
Yeah.
Just a tight sock on my head to compress it. All right, and then my last 2. Drum roll, not really. My number 2 is Return of the King. I already spoiled that my number 1 was Fellowship of the Ring. I love that movie so much. It just makes me so happy, like putting it on. It's definitely the soundtrack that I listen to the most out of any movie, let alone like these 3. I love just the music. As I said, it's so like uplifting and like hopeful, and then it's crazy to think that though, because like it ends so tragic and like sad, obviously, with like the Fellowship breaking apart, Boromir scene, like it's really sad at the end, but I get so happy when I think of that movie. It's definitely the one I've seen the most, just because there's been many days when it's like, I'm gonna put on a Lord of the Rings marathon today, and then you kind of taper off maybe halfway through Two Towers. So I've started many marathons, so of course I've seen Fellowship the most. That's my list there.
Sweet.
If you take out the Hobbit movies, we have the same list, Kirklin.
Ooh, look at
Look
that.
at that. You copied me.
You're showing your quality,
I am.
Captain of Gondor.
Let's see. Taylor, you started, so I'm gonna let you start again. But you got to pick. Are you gonna give us your scenes or your characters? I feel like you and me should do our characters first, because I think Dylan and Kirkland have different a different route of their characters.
What do you mean different route of the characters?
Did you just do a list of 10 characters, Taylor?
I saw that the instruction was 10 characters, so I did a list of 10 characters.
Okay. So you go, and then I'm gonna go, because they did something different.
Okay.
Taylor's clearly not been in Discord at all today.
Well, I just saw like 10 characters. Although I wasn't sure, was it 5 scenes or 10 scenes? Because I did 10 scenes.
You can list them off. I did
had like
5,
16.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You did 6. Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Yeah. How long did it take you to do that thumbnail today, too?
Not too long. Why? You just use the Lord of the Rings image.
Oh no, it was fine. It all worked and everything, but I was wondering like what was gonna be in there and everything. I just Return the King like DVD cover with the rankings, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
And can I ask, like, this color aesthetic for Lord? I guess it works. The purple kind of threw me off. It looks very Lion King-y, the color. It works, but why did you go with that color?
Just like my default like GeekVerse news like color scheme. I just go with.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, just so everyone knows, we prearranged that banter. But go ahead, Taylor. You were saying.
Yeah, we prearranged it. Yeah.
10 characters, descending order.
So my first number 1, he
Start
just
from the top this time.
descending, right? Yeah.
Well, I screwed it up. I meant ascending. You do whatever you want. Yeah. I feel like you start at 10 and you build that anticipation.
Descending would be 10. Starting with 10.
Yeah, and that's where I said, if I said ascending, you're starting
Wouldn't
with 10,
be ascending
right?
going up to number 1.
Yeah, ascending is 10. That's
Descending
why
is
I
going
You could also
down.
say, though, to ascending, you're starting with the lowest number and you're going up numbers. numerically.
I guess that's
Yeah,
true.
that's fair. Start with 10. Start with 10.
Yeah, I'm
Go.
gonna start with
10.
10.
Tell
I
us in the comments what you think.
butchered this guy's name.
That's
first.
is tomorrow
Whose name
this
did you
Wednesday or
butcher?
next Wednesday?
Well, I put
Don't even start on that, Travis.
my number
Guy in
10.
the tree.
I put Freeboard, but I meant Treebeard as my number 10. I'm
That's
really,
Legolas's nickname in his extreme sports. Oh, there goes
That's what board he
Freeboard
rides.
down the
Yeah.
stairs.
He's sponsored by Freeboard.
Oh my god.
I did not realize I mistyped that till
Freeboard.
now. Yeah, Treebeard. Not
Treebeard.
Freeboard,
Is this
Treebeard.
guy?
Really?
This guy's in your fanfic with Count Dooku going to the Shire and all
Oh,
that.
he's in there for
That's
sure.
where
yeah.
Freeboard shows up.
Can I? It's a spoiler, but can I quickly ask? Does anyone else have an Ent in their list? Because I
No.
certainly don't. Okay, so Taylor, you'd be the only one. I
You said it
expect
as
to
if there
have.
would be like another Ent that would be in contention.
For a second, I thought you were going to talk about like that Ent on Fire because I know how much you
Right.
love that guy.
Yeah.
Travis.
True,
Maybe
that
Rings
guy's
of
one
Power
my
will give
heart.
us one great one. You know, we saw them in the premiere. We saw them a little bit. So
Oh yeah, no,
We
they're
saw
coming.
some trees moving. Yeah.
yeah. So why is Treebeard number 10?
I love the ants. And again, that whole moment in Two Towers when Treebeard just stands there and just like many of these trees were my friends, and he's just the emotions come in and he like leads the charge, calls the ants in to go battle Saruman. Like it's just such a heavy scene because this is something like the ants. They're neutral. They don't do this, and so them to do something like this is massive. I just love that, and I love a lot of the scenes with him and Merry and Pippin too, and just he's so innocent and just like you mentioned Kirklin in our retro when he's talking about oh, they are very small. It doesn't make much sense to me. Just going north or whatnot. Or take us south. Sorry. So I love his character. I feel like my list is gonna be controversial.
Oh no.
My number 9 is Aemir. I love Carl Urban.
What
in
the
this scene.
fuck?
That's some boys bias right there.
I love I swear boys is maybe boys influenced a little bit, but
No, that's not
It's the
fair. You
Riddick.
can't-
It's the Riddick
No,
influence.
it's just
Oh, you little cunt.
I
I'd
just
cut
love,
to your head if it stood a foot tall.
I just love Carl Urban so much, and when seeing him in this movie, I love him being just this rider of Rohan. He's fantastic. I love his role so much, just leading the Rohirrim. So
now the rest of the Fellowship, someone's not making it because of Aemir. Number wise.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
crazy. There's gonna be so many characters left off where I almost
there's
can-
so many other characters outside of the Fellowship.
There
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
there is, but there's also other
But if you're giving a
characters
slot to
than Treebeard
Aemir,
and
I mean,
Aemir,
things
yeah.
are amiss already.
Treebeard,
love it,
I'll
though.
defend you on that one. Aemir,
I'll
could
defend
be a top 100.
I wouldn't have it any other way for a Taylor list, though.
I'll defend
yeah.
you on Treebeard now that I know what number 9 is. Before I was like, I don't know, but now that I know 9, now I don't even know what's gonna happen going forward. So
My number 8 is Theoden. I absolutely love Theoden when we get into Return of the King. He's fantastic. I feel like he really shines in that, just leading the charge. He's just become such an amazing character from when we see him in Two Towers and what he like collects himself and comes to it, and just becoming just a factor that saves Middle Earth just with what he's becomes capable of. Number 7 is the legendary Frodo. And again, I think just because he's in rank number 7 doesn't mean that like I dislike him or anything. Like there's top 10 and like top 10, like that's fantastic. You're in the top 10. That's what you want to be. So when it comes to Frodo, again, he's an absolute legend, but there are other hobbits that I definitely favor over the adventure
clearly.
Okay.
over him. Yeah.
yeah, spoiler.
This is really getting into me as a person, which characters I
Shit.
like.
now.
I
Because
think I thought
Aemir
that
was
was
such a
Aemir,
casual
yeah.
person everyone would go for, yeah.
I feel like he said Carl Urban more than Aemir.
Yeah.
He just picked
Taylor's
Carl Urban
prepping
on his
up.
list.
Taylor's prepping us that this one's the red flag, not
Yeah.
the other one. Okay.
Well, my number 6 is Gandalf.
Whoa,
so
that is
low.
low for a Gandalf.
That's fair. Yeah.
Love Gandalf. Absolutely, just a legendary number 6 slot for him right there.
He's a great number 6.
I specifically would say like Gandalf the Grey. I like Gandalf the Grey
Same
more
guy,
than Gandalf
same
the
guy.
White. Yeah. My number 5 is Legolas. I think Legolas is just outstanding throughout all of these films. Just great. Really shines in Two Towers a lot, I feel like.
Freeboard himself.
And then My number 4 is Aragorn. Love Aragorn. He's fantastic. It's just
Top 4.
made me want to be a
That's
king
nice.
when I was
Legendary.
little. Yeah, just legendary top 4 there. My number 3 is Sauron, specifically his physical form, because
sweet.
when I watched
this is
that,
Predator
when I-
the Tree all over again.
when I watched as a little kid, when I watched that intro, that was my AB like moment. Just going back, just seeing Sauron do his one swing and just go back, do his swing
Sneezing
again. He was
away.
just so cool.
That swing is better than Aragorn, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, that one swing.
He's just so badass. Number 2 is Samwise. I absolutely love Sam.
Okay, I love
He's
that.
just,
That's a good one. Nice.
Oh yeah, he's just
fun
he's
stuff.
fantastic. And again, like I'm not gonna just go ahead and preach that. Oh yeah, Sam could have done the whole ring thing and all that stuff. No. I don't see that at all. I think the two of them are just they needed each other at the end of the day just to get through there, and they made a great team. But just character wise and traits, I just love Sam and everything that he goes through, and just his optimistic speeches he's always giving Frodo and such. So my number 1, and this is because I'm realizing I'm just extremely biased and I just love this shit. It just tickles my funny bone. But Gimli is just my number 1. Any scene that he's in, it just cracks me up so hard. I think that's again probably one of the funniest things with The Hobbit was just my wee lad Gimli. Like, fuck.
That's not even him. That's someone saying his name.
I know. You think like, what is this? Some goblin mutant. That's my wee lad Gimli.
I don't understand a fucking word he said there.
Fuck, it got me again. Oh, it's so funny.
Here's Taylor's top 10.
That's phenomenal.
That's amazing.
I do love that you did say that you have other hobbits plural above Frodo, but there was only one.
That was a
I
lie,
would
for
definitely,
sure.
if I could go back and retract that, I would. I meant Hobbit.
okay.
I don't want to spoil it though.
I thought you were gonna say if
I
I,
like
go
it.
back and retract, I'd put hobbits above. I'm like, you still could. But all right. Well, I'm gonna reveal my list after this first ad break, so we'll be right back. And we're back. So with my top 10, sorry, you're not gonna get any Treebeard. You're not gonna get any
Got a Sauron in there?
No, I do not, because he is just a physical appearance that does nothing really. Nothing. He looks cool. I'll give him that. We're talking about cool. If we had a top 10 looking cool characters, he might be number 1. I'll give you that. But characters overall, I don't know his motives other than he wants this ring. Why? Why is he so mad? I'm still wondering, is he mad that Galadriel dated Gandalf and they didn't get a shot? I don't know. This is a funny way to start it. My number 10 is Gimli. Taylor's number 1.
Hey.
This list was very tough. Once I got past the top 4, it was tough to be like, okay, the top 4 were the 4 horsewomen, whatever you want to say. Like, these characters are clearly who I love the most, and the rest that I do love, but all to varying degrees. And that's what's like, and there was a version of this list that didn't have Gimli in there, but I love him being the aggressor in Fellowship. I love the pairing of him and Legolas in Two Towers. I think, of course, like we talked about, yes, Legolas and Gimli get a little bit more background in Return of the King, but I like the journey he did go on, and I like that we met him as this brute, but he ended as just such a lovable guy. Think about the first time you meet him when he's like, oh, let's just destroy it, and he hits the axe.
What are we
and-
waiting for?
yeah. Think about that, and then think about the last time we see him. He's in awe of Aragorn getting that crown. He's like, oh my god, and he just looks like a completely different person. Like most of these people at the end of the series, except for Legolas, he doesn't change at all. He's the same guy. So, and that's why spoiler Legolas didn't make my list. After that, I don't know why I put him in here, but I felt like I want to because I like the character, and maybe that's why I'm a bit more disappointed sometimes in Rings of Power with a certain character. But it is Elrond. I got him at 9. I like the role. Yeah, I really like the presence. I think it's specifically, I like the way he's written, but I think it's the way Hugo Weaving plays that character. I think he plays him with a lot of presence, a lot of power. Anytime he's in the scene, I feel like he's controlling that. And not just because, he's leading the council meeting. No, between that, with Gandalf, with Arwen, with Aragorn, he feels like he has such purpose and command, and that's Elrond. I don't see Hugo Weaving. I've seen him as Red Skull and Mr. Smith and stuff like that. I don't see him. I feel like he just fully becomes Elrond. So I really like him, and I liked, a little bit of the stuff he did in The Hobbit, and that's why I kind of hope I end up liking that character a bit more in Rings of Power, because Hugo Weaving is just fantastic cast. So I was kind of surprised, but I was like, generally, I really like Elrond. I love the opening with him in the Isildur. So there you go. At lucky number 7, got Faramir. As I said before, Faramir I liked enough
I think
when I
you
was
skipped
younger.
8.
What I got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then this is 8. Never mind. He's not lucky number.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, he's not. Sorry, you're not lucky.
Very
number
unlucky.
Faramir.
He's never
Fact,
lucky.
yeah.
You didn't get your true quality after all, you know. But no, he's somebody I've appreciated as I was older, and even somebody have like loved Boromir the whole time. I was like, oh yeah, Faramir's fine. But I think it's not just this last retro, but the past few years when I have watched Return of the King, especially extended editions and those scenes like I talked about that they add in there with oh God, why am I forgetting his name? Denethor. Just those scenes that they have and the dialogue and the journey that guy goes on, I quite like it. And he gets to be the one that turns the ring away, you know, unlike Boromir. So now lucky number 7, spoiler, oh no, I guess that's not, but Saruman. I fucking love Saruman. Another very interesting character. I think it's similar to the Hugo Weaving thing is the way Christopher Lee plays him. I really like him. I'm always so intrigued in him. He was the guy that when I had his toy, I was doing like prequel stories with them, and and maybe that's why I'm pulling for the Stranger to be Saruman. I just find him so interesting, and the reason why he turned. We talk about it in Fellowship and stuff like that. And there's lots of layers to a character that doesn't really have much screen time, and just the screen presence again. So before I was going to say Saruman's the only villain on my list, I lied because I got Gollum at number 6. I have to put in Gollum because he's a very interesting character. I went back and forth that he was going to be higher, but he's on the list for like fourth wall reasons because like just technology is crazy what they could pull off. We talked about, but it's a character that always is unpredictable, and Andy Serkis just plays him just perfectly, flawlessly. Great character. Such a great, just in the middle, you never know what you're going to get. Number 1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
5. Thank you. Like I said, I feel like I get a bad rep and all this stuff. People might not expect this, but my top 5, I got Sam in there. I think Sam is a great character. I do love Sam. I question some of his motives, some of his choices and stuff like that. But all in all, like he is. Frodo's the hero of the story, but to me, he's the guy that almost, becomes the hero. When I think about who did the most, you can have Sam up there, and he's just that support system. He's a lovable friend. Sean Astin plays him in such a lovable way, and I think that's why so many people do like Sam, is because they fall in love with him and wish they had a friend like Sam, or they want their friendship to be like Sam and Frodo. So you got that going on there. Number 4, followed not too swiftly by Master Baggins himself, Mr. Frodo. Elijah Wood is great. I'm a Frodo guy. Love the journey. Love what he has to go on. Love what he takes with them, carrying the weight, taking that load and stuff like that. Not get your mind in the gutter. Not like that. But I love Frodo. I feel like over the years as a protagonist, he gets like pushed down a little. Or people say, he could have done better. It's like, no, he did exactly what he needed to. And he's a great character from, again, talk about a journey, seeing him this nice hobbit dance in the beginning to he's just kind of a shell of former self when we get there. Top 3, Gandalf, where he, I think, rightly deserves. Where'd you have him there, Taylor? 7 or 8?
Oh, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So
not top
definitely
3.
lower.
Now, some of these people might be higher than me, but yeah, Gandalf, Ian McKellen. I do agree with Taylor that they are the same guy, but I do prefer the gray version more. And it's funny, as a kid, I preferred the white version. It's like, he has the powers and he's a badass, but just he gets to be, I think, a bit more Fellowship. Or in Fellowship, he gets to be a bit more goofy, and I like that. I like when there's moments he just can't remember anything, and he just sits down frustrated with himself, and he's this guy who has like the powers of a god. He's immortal, but he feels so lively and lovable and friendly, and he feels so trusting, and I'm very happy it was Ian McKellen, not Sean Connery. As much as I love Sean Connery, I think that would have been a very, very different Gandalf and stuff like that. So Ian McKellen just gives a pitch perfect performance. Number 2, Boromir.
Nice.
Son of the Steward of Gondor. Gotta have him up there. Go to the Fellowship of the Ring. I can't say anything here that I couldn't have better than I did there. Just a character that, again, much like Saruman, has lots of layers, but even more so. But love him. Love the way Sean Bean plays him. And number 1, no surprise, I had in my top 10 characters. I've talked about this for years. Aragorn. Aragorn is great. To me, he's like, when I sometimes think of, if I don't think of Batman as like the hero's hero, I'm thinking of Aragorn next. It's like, he's the guy I want to be leading me in the army. He's the guy that I just think of the badass moments, but he's friendly. He can sing. He's lovable. Nice long locks. So, yeah. And Viggo Mortensen, again, plays well. All these actors play well. So that's my top 10.
Beautiful.
I'll go next. You want to go next? Yeah,
Go
I'll go
ahead.
next. This was probably the hardest one out of all the categories, honestly, for me. There's so many that I just had to keep rearranging the list. Like, I feel like there was multiple times where I had like 60% of the people that aren't even on this list on like my top 10 list. Like it was just so hard to piece it together. So I have 6 honorable mentions. I'm gonna quickly rattle off at the end because I don't want to spoil any of my picks. As we're going around, we love building up the drama here. Exactly. So number 10, like Travis, I have Gimli. I definitely have multiple lists where he wasn't on here, but I felt like I would have just been giving myself a disservice because I just loved his character. Like as a kid, I feel like also I just loved Legolas so much that him pairing up with Legolas, it was like a Merry and Pippin situation where like when they're together, they're just like such a stronger character than just on their own. Yeah. He's funny. Like Travis mentioned, he goes on actually like a real solid journey for a side character, and I really like it. So. Number 10, number 9, I have his partner in crime, Legolas.
Nice.
This was one again that I was having an argument with myself on if I was going to keep him off the list, but I would have just been, again, my younger self would have hated me because that was my number 1 for so long. To him just not even be on my top 10, I feel like I couldn't do that. So, number 9, and then going up to number 8. I have Mr. Bilbo Baggins here. It's interesting. It's a character that's not in like the 3 movies that I've seen that much. Like I haven't seen the Peter Jackson trilogy with Martin. Not Martin Short. Yep. What's his name? Is it Martin Short?
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman. Yeah.
Martin Short. Fuck.
Martin
Short is Bilbo. That'd be great.
Who is that again? I cannot picture who that is.
I just think of Steve Martin with him.
Steve Martin. Yeah. And Steve Martin should play Gandalf. Absolutely.
Yes.
Fuck, please make that movie. That'd be so good.
They actually kind of look similar.
Yeah, they
way.
do. Oh, man. I wanted that so bad. Steve Martin as Gandalf and Martin Short as Bilbo. That'd be great.
That's amazing. All right, where was I? Oh, yeah, Bilbo. Like he's not in it that much for like the Lord of the Rings movies, but I love so much like the usage of him in Fellowship and more importantly, honestly, actually, yeah, pretty much in Fellowship, but even just like at the end of the journey, like when he says goodbye to Middle Earth and goes off, like sails off, like it's just such a great moment. So yeah, number 8 is Bilbo. Number 7, I have Lady Galadriel here. I really, really love the character. I feel like recently, because I've just been like going on like a super Lady Galadriel like kick on like just getting super pumped for like Rings of Power and just like learning about her character in the early age stuff. So that it's probably skewed my rankings a little bit because this should just be for the Peter Jackson one. But even just Cate Blanchett's like performance of her is just it's like jaw dropping, honestly. Like I feel like she just pulls off that Lady of the Woods like so well. Like she just seems like a deity, not just like the elves are already like shown to be on like such a different existence than what the men are, but she's just so on another level compared to all of them. And yeah, like the way that she just leaves her mark on the Fellowship, like they all are just different after leaving Lorien. So yeah, Lady Galadriel. Number 6, I have Schmeagol. Not Gollum. Yeah, and because
we're splitting hairs there, you know.
Well,
so you mean just Smeagol from the
just
first
Smeagol,
movie,
yeah,
right?
because like Travis was
Like
alluding
Return
to
of the King.
earlier, me and Dylan incorporated a like villains list
Fair
that
enough.
we'll
Fair
go
enough.
through afterwards.
Fair enough.
So
Right.
here I just have Smeagol. Yeah, just such a sad and tragic character, and I think just on top of Andy Serkis's performance, like Travis mentioned, with like the technology they're able to do back in the day, and like just make it age like fine wine, like it just looks so good to this day. And yeah, just like the way that the ring left its mark on it, like it's such a good representation of what the ring can do to someone. That's not just clearly like what Isildur or Boromir went through, right? Where it just makes them like turn to the super aggressor. So yeah, top 5 now. Number 5, I have Samwise Gamgee. Not much more to be said about this guy. He's such a Superman in his own right. And yeah, I love how he's just able to always like remind Frodo of like what the Shire life is like at least for like a big chunk of their adventures. And he always just is like a heat sink for Frodo. Like when he's just so worn down from the ring, I feel like many times like Sam is just so able to like just calm him down and just make him happy. And yeah, so fantastic. So Samwise Gamgee there.
I'm surprised. I thought he was gonna rank higher for you. I really did.
This list is so hard. Like even going up from here, it's like I feel like they just get harder and harder. Because number 4, this one, it kind of hurts, but I got to do this. Number 4, I got Boromir. I thought he was going to be top 3, honestly, but yeah.
Nope.
No. And like this was a character that used to not even be on my top 10 like at all. Like I've really, really grown to love the character of Boromir. It's like the number 1 death for me in like the entire series. Like I think that is the one that gets me the most choked up. Like it's just so, yeah, Sean Bean's performance and just everything around Boromir, like what he's representing for like men, and like this is the best of the best, and it's still like he just falls in the mud like when he tries to take it from Frodo, and just like how upset he is with himself. Oh, it gets me every time. So number 4 there. Top 3 now, I have Frodo Baggins. Like I said, like I thought Boromir might be above Frodo, but this was just, I feel like also I just love Elijah Wood so much, and this is just like such a perfect casting for the role. Like Elijah Wood is just like a real life Hobbit in my eyes. Like he's just so like happy all the time, and just exudes like such positivity. And I think like his performance of Frodo is just, it's so amazing, because he's not just this like goofy Hobbit, even though he has that side of him. Like he's actually really well read and like very intelligent, for even though he is like a small stature, he might come off as like a child. Like he really is just like a Master Baggins, right? And I think Elijah Wood just, he plays all sides of Frodo so well. Like even just going through the books, like it's one of those things where I just picture Elijah Wood as him, and I can't picture anyone else like in that role. It's so perfect. But like majority of everyone else on the list, it's hard to recast them, right? Like it's just so pitch perfect. Number 2, I have the king himself, Aragorn.
Not Theoden.
Yeah, not Theoden King, the true king, Aragorn. King Elisar II. Yeah, I love this character so much. It's another one where like the more I learn about him, the more I like him. Yeah, Viggo Mortensen's performance is absolutely fantastic, and just all sides of this character are just so interesting to me. The Ranger side, the King side, like the poet side. Like he just has so many different sides of him, and I feel like he really is just such a great like role model for like, honestly, just everyone, mostly like young men maybe. Like he's just such a fantastic character. Like there's so little to I don't know, pick apart on this character in like a negative sense. Like he's so well written. Yeah, I love Aragorn. And then number 1, if you haven't guessed, would have been Gandalf. Yeah, I could talk forever about Gandalf. I just love him so much. He's got like that grandfatherly presence, but also like with the goofy side, when like Travis, you mentioned when he's just like forgetting things, he's all frustrated, even though he's just like he is this god like character, but he's still just like, oh, like getting pissed off with Peregrine, and just has all these really like multiple sides to him. I think makes him so interesting. And then, but like at the end of the day, just like for me, it is that like fatherly, warm presence that he brings. It makes me so happy to have him like leading our fellowship. Yeah, one of the most like heart-wrenching deaths, but also just like comforting returns. Yeah, just so many emotional roller coasters I feel like I go through with Gandalf's journey. Like he has so many badass epic moments when he's kicking ass or like helping the Gondor troops like retreat, but also like those moments when he's talking to Frodo, that great line that I'd butcher to paraphrase, so I don't even want to try it right now, but then like when he's talking to Peregrine, you know, in Return of the King, like comforting him, telling him that like death isn't the end. Like it's just so many like moments like that with him. Yeah, I would like this was like honestly a pretty easy number 1 for me. I feel like maybe like Aragorn obviously would have been pretty close, but yeah, no, Gandalf at the end of the day is just, he's my favorite Lord of the Rings character. So there you go.
There you go.
Good stuff. Do you want to do your honorable mentions that you talked about?
Oh yes, thanks for reminding me. So yeah, number 6, this isn't even really in a particular order, so but I have 6. So number 6, Gwahir, the Lord of the Eagles. Number 5, Eowyn. Number 4, Arwen. Number 3, Elrond. Number 2, Faramir. And number 1, I have Merry and Pippin, because I can't separate those two. Yeah.
No Aramir on there?
No Eowyn. No,
He
he was
didn't
an
make the
asshole
cut.
to Merry. He's like, he can't fight. Just like the women, they should be in the kitchen.
If Kirklin had 11 spots, he still wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, no, it would have been Guahir over Aemir every day.
Guahir.
It would have been Grand over Aemir probably.
Grand. That's my man. Right
No, I'm kidding. That's hyperbole.
Okay, I'm gonna do I have some honorable mentions as well, and not like Kirkland. I'm not gonna build up to it. I'm just gonna say them now. So 2, Galadriel and Elrond. I'm really curious to revisit this ranking once Rings of Power is done, because I really liked them in the first 2 episodes, but it's not deep enough yet, and I like their portrayal in the other movies too, but just not quite enough sauce there for me to put them in the top 10. But curious to see how I feel about that. Merry and Pippin, I agree. If I could combine them, they would have made on the list for sure. But as they're separate parts, not quite top 10 worthy, which none of us put any of them on here. So
yeah.
there you go. And then Taylor had this guy on his list. Theoden, honorable mention for me. Just not quite. He's right on the edge. I like him a lot. So good pick, Taylor. Okay, going in my top 10. My number 10 is going to be Legolas, a guy that I criticized on our Fellowship Retro for his acting, but I think he got better in Two Towers and Return of the King. I think he's just such a fun character. I love his design, and he's the elf that we spend the most time with, and I think that's we get a lot of cool stuff with that too. So number 10 for me there. Number 9, I'm the only one who has this character, Eowyn. We talked about her story a lot in obviously Two Towers and Return of the King, and there is some issues there, but I still think just acting, she's like one of the best in these movies. I think she has an interesting arc. I like where she ends up, obviously stepping up to the occasion in Return of the King, but I just think she adds so much heart to these movies. So there you go, number 9. Same spot as Kirkland. I put Bilbo here at number 8. And it's obviously not just from the Lord of the Rings movies, but I like his portrayal in all of these. That's really the best part of the 3 Hobbit movies is that actor playing that role. He's a lot of fun, and he's just surrounded by tons of crap, unfortunately. But even in the animated movies, I like every incarnation of Bilbo. So I think the fact that he's in 8 of them. He wouldn't be in. Maybe he's in all of the animated movies, is he? And now I'm trying to think. Obviously, The Hobbit. He is. Yeah, he's in all of them.
Yeah.
So I like him.
He's not in Two Towers, is he?
That's the one. Yeah,
No,
I guess he wouldn't be in Two Towers at all.
He doesn't have a physical appearance in Two Towers, no.
Yeah. So yeah, there you go. He's maybe like the most consistent character or something like that. I liked his appearance and everything. Number 7, I put Gimli. He's so much fun. I love his design. He's very funny. Once again, a dwarf that we spend a lot of time with. And I mean that trifecta of Legolas, Gimli, and Aragorn is just such a fun trio for me that Gimli gets raised up a lot for that. Moving on to number 6 is where I put Frodo. I mean, you guys have kind of said everything there is to say about Frodo. I think just the journey that he goes from the beginning to the end. But it's particularly for me, like those last 3 or 4 scenes with him in Return of the King, like they just hit so hard in terms of how he's back to where he was. He's in this place of safety, his home, but he's just lost his heart. Like he's just a completely different guy. I think that's such a great arc. Number 5, I put Boromir. This might be like the best written and like acted character potentially in all of these movies. Such a fun character. Yes, he's only in it for 1. I mean, I guess he does show up with the extended cuts in both Two Towers and Return of the King, but it's really just that fellowship journey. I think it's so much fun. And this is tricky, right? Because Kirkland, we technically like are going to do our little villains list after. Like you could put Boromir there. Like that he's very interesting that he straddles that line in terms of where he's at. Now, maybe I'm cheating here in terms of just talking about doing that villains list, but I put Gollum at number 4. Same thing. Like, what's the difference between him and Boromir? Boromir just didn't live long enough to turn into that full evilness. There's a lot of good guy in the Smeagol side of him. There's also, he's a villain. I don't know. I'm just trying to justify why
I was going to say,
him.
Boromir still technically didn't kill anyone yet, or Smeagol killed Deagle. We don't know if Boromir for sure would have killed Frodo.
He got himself killed, Travis.
Well, he did get him, but by what? Saving 2 halflings,
It's true.
The little ones.
No, you're right. You're right. I just I think he's so high on my list that I needed to represent him here in that way. And I don't know. When I think of Gollum, I don't think of him as a villain. Like he's something else entirely. He's his own beast. Number 3 is where I put Samwise. I just love this character so much. The heart that he adds to these movies, the journey he goes on from being just this kind of understated guy who doesn't want to leave home because he's scared of what he'll find, and goes all the way to the end and gives up everything, risks his entire life and everything he's ever loved, just for his friend to do this task. So it's a pretty amazing story. Gandalf, another character that across all of these movies, I mean, The Hobbit, there's some weird writing, of course, but even it's fun to have him there. The animated movies, and then, of course, the Peter Jackson big trilogy there. Just such a fantastic character, so much fun, so much mystery about him, such a dominating presence, so interesting. You know, I talked about how, you know, we got like Gimli and Legolas represent your dwarf and your elf. Like, he's this whole other thing that I guess you get Saruman as well. But yeah, a lot of fun. And then, I mean, number one for me. Number 1 and 2, like, those are the two locks, I think, Aragorn and Gandalf. And yeah, there you go, Aragorn, number 1. As I said in whatever episode that was, is when I grew up, I wanted to be Aragorn. I'll never be as good or as great as Aragorn, but I can strive to be one day. What a fantastic character, amazingly acted, and just amazing from start to finish. So I wish he was better done in the animated movies, is what I'll say about that too. But yeah, there's my list.
You're working on your climbing. You know, he could climb the Helm's Deep pretty good. So
It's
you know,
true.
You're working towards it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Do you want to do our villains quick then? After.
Go for it.
All right. Okay. So 5 is that what we decided on?
I got 5.
Okay. I'll do quickly my 2 honorable mentions. Lurtz and
Terrible omission.
and Shelob. Those are my 2 quick honorable mentions. Number 5, I had Gollum here. Again, I split those 2 characters because I definitely see them as two different beings. I feel like Gollum is a lot more relevant in. I mean, he's not in Fellowship that much, but still, I feel like that's Gollum in that movie. And then like Two Towers, I feel like it's Smeagol. And then like Return of the King, I feel like it's Return of the Gollum in that one. So he's got 2 movies in my eyes. All right, and then number 4, Sauron, the Great Eye, just such a powerful presence. Number 3, I have Saruman here. Saruman of many colors. Number 2, Witch King of Angmar. Just again, if this was the coolest looking character list, this would probably be my number 1. I just absolutely love the look of Witch King of Angmar, and even as a young lad, like this character design just got so imprinted like in my brain, where it was just like such a badass looking villain character. Like he was tied to Battle for Middle Earth as well, so like I was like in the vibe moment. I love this character so much. And then when I learned about his story more, it just made it even that much more interesting. And number 1, my number 1 villain in the Lord of the Rings trilogy is Durin's Bane, the Balrog. Just such a, again, talk about like memorable villains, right? It's just so imprinted like in that first moment that you see him. And yeah, just phenomenal representation of what that being is from Peter Jackson. So great job from him.
I thought you were going to put the editor who put that Boromir cut in Return of the King at number 1. That's would be my number 1.
Yeah.
Whoever decided to do
You
that.
jump scare every time you see that moment.
If it's Peter Jackson, you deserve it too, because he also made The Hobbit.
Ooh.
So
True. He's the biggest villain of them all.
yeah.
My number 5 here about the Balrog. Yeah, he's just iconic. You got to put him there. Number 4, this might be a surprise. I'm going to put Smaug. This could have been an all-time great villain if he had more screen time, but ultimately he's not really in those movies a whole lot, unfortunately. But he is great for what is in there. Some great dialogue. Menacing. The CGI looks fantastic there. Number 3, Lurtz. I mean, it's a weird one, right? But I think he gets like so much more screen time than like
That's
a lot
fair,
of other villains and stuff, and he does have a lot of spoken lines more than like your Shelobs of the world and stuff like that. There you go. Number 2, Saruman. This guy also came very close to my character list before I split them out, but he was right on the edge. He was like right there with Theoden, Merry and Pippin, which is a weird combo, those 4 hanging out. And then number 1, this is very much a cop-out, but I'm just putting the ring wraiths as a concept. Just all of them bundled together. Just the coolest look, that screeching sound effect. They're just so menacing in the different scenes, like specifically in those Fellowship of the Ring shots when it's the night and you just see them sprawling along the mountains, or, you know, when all the hobbits are hiding under that tree stump and all that stuff. So just very, very menacing. So there you go. There's my quick hits for the villains. I also did some very quick math to determine our collective characters. Do you guys want to hear these?
Sure.
So it's a very quick math, so I could be wrong, but here you go. Number 10, Bilbo. He just snuck in there right at the end.
There you go.
Number 9, because Taylor put him so high, he makes it into our top 10. That's Sauron. So
yeah.
there you go.
This list, I don't endorse this
approve?
list. No, I don't endorse this list at all.
If you put him maybe 2 slots lower, I don't think he would have made it. But anyway, that's the reality. Number 8, Legolas. Number 7, Gimli. So good buddies right next to each
Nice.
other. Number 6, Gollum. Number 5, Boromir. Nice, he made it top 5. Once again, 2 buddies. Number 4, Frodo. 3, Samwise. And then probably not surprising based on where a lot of these we had first and second. Gandalf number 2, Aragorn number 1. So
Nice. The
pretty
king.
solid list, other than a couple in there. One,
Yeah.
one
Sauron.
specifically.
Sauron, he's something. All right, Taylor Fields, you're going to lead us in our best scenes conversation after our last ad break. And we're back. So Taylor Fields, so you had 10, I guess. You made 10, eh?
I did 10. Yeah. And
So technically it's the top 5, but these bottom 5 can be your honorable mentions or your top 10, whatever you prefer.
I'm really curious how long some of these sequences are for you guys. It's hard to decide
Yeah.
like what exactly makes a scene, you know?
yeah, like for me, a lot of these, I mean, I would say probably some of these scenes is when like the one character has done it, their dialogue, and then it goes to a different scene or something like that. Like if they're on like a really good roll with like a certain speech or something like that, that's a scene right there.
Potato.
Yeah.
Wee lad Gimli, like those lines. That's a scene right there.
But no, this is definitely tough because I don't know if I'd put any of these scenes over another. Like I rank them. I think I rank them successfully and how like they make me feel and how some I feel like really good about. But all in all, like they're all just, these are my favorite scenes in the trilogy. So, ranking in number 10 slot, the Fell Beast almost grabbing Frodo. Sam has his like good still in the world speech. I love that scene where he's narrating and he's just saying like there's still good out there. It's worth fighting for. I love that. Hits home for me. Number 9, the Eagles are coming, when Pippin says that, and like the Eagles are just swooping in and just attack the Fell Beast. Like, oh, it just gets me every time.
Wow.
It's just so good. I love that. It feels hopeful.
Taylor's scenes are just quotes, actually. Still good in the
Top 10
world.
quotes, yeah.
Eagles
Yeah.
are coming. Yeah, you shall not pass.
Beacons are lit.
Yeah.
I love when Pippin is singing to
Salted
Lord
pork.
Denethor, and you have the Osgiliath charge. I think
good
that's
one.
super
Yeah,
powerful.
that's a good one.
Gandalf and the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm. I think that's insane. Like, just like, I don't know. So again, someone sold their soul to get that quality of CGI. It just blows my mind. And then what was that? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. The Minas Morgoth. The Death Star beam scene when the light shoots out of the tower is specifically though
Minas
when
Morgul.
Mass Morgul, thank you. When the Witch King floats up on his Fell Beast and then just like
floats.
perches down on top, and there's the score is kicking in and he's like looking around and the gates open. Like, I love that scene so much. It's just like I just want to whip my sword out and just start swinging around the living room.
Good, you
It's so
said
cool.
sword. I'm very happy. Yeah. I didn't know where we were
No,
going.
no, not the other thing.
And what would
That
you be
was
doing with
my-
the sword if you whipped it out? Like, you're just going to fight in your living room?
It better
right
be
now?
like a dagger, or else you're gonna break your TV and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a big
Well, yeah,
claymore.
you just like
swinging
pretend that
thing
there's like Nazgul surrounding you and you're just swinging them. Make sure no one
around.
walks
So he's
in.
a torch too in this scenario. It's Nazgul.
Just throw the torch at the wall.
Real torch in my living room.
Madison walks in, you throw it her direction. Just wearing like
Put
a
the
big
candle down, Taylor.
My number 5, I don't know why, but that scene of the Uruk-hai and Two Towers
don't
just
know
running
why.
and just blows up the wall. Like, just you have
That's a very
Aragorn
specific
Aragorn
Taylor
shouting out like Elvish like language,
Oh,
just
during
like
Helm's
take him
Deep
down, take it down.
specifically?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and the guy's running with the candle. You know, he's just running
candle.
down, and yeah, just he
Like Taylor
dolphin
does.
dives into that wall. It's
That's
just
how you
great.
do Taylor.
Taylor's got the laundry basket on his head.
Yeah.
He's running. Yeah.
He goes into work every day.
Those are in the wee hours of the day.
Taylor
Number 4, Sauron. Again, he's doing that swing. Fuck, gets me every time. It's so good. That opening sequence is just absolutely incredible. Number 3.
You really have micro scenes here. This is cool. It's like 5-second sequences.
Is there more
I'll
like
take
shots? You know,
Yeah,
just one
exactly.
shot, my top 10
Screenshots.
shots.
Yeah. Number 3, Gandalf tells Frodo about time in the Mines of Moria. You know, gotta. How does he say it?
Great one.
All we can do, or we have.
Do with what as the time has been given to us.
That
All we
sounds
can
like
do
it. Yeah.
is what we can with the time that's been given to us.
Yeah, that's it. You got it.
Yep.
Number 2,
The
the
brother.
Rohirrim charge at Minas Tirith. Like, oh man, the buildup of that. Like, this is what you play if you're about to do a drag race. You just watch the scene real quick, and it gets you in the zone. Like, this is just absolutely.
What kind of drag race you
What
talking
the
about? Here?
fuck?
I don't know. Just drag race. Just
Drag
any kind of drag race, like a
Like with cars or people?
horses probably, but probably I was thinking cars.
Okay.
I digress. This is an amazing scene. The score is incredible. It's absolutely fantastic. My number 1 though is Aragorn bowing to the hobbits. It's just fantastic. I would start it after the singing. Like, I like the singing, but I like the scene when he stops singing.
Turn it down. Turn it down.
Yeah. And he
It has a fan edit where Aragorn doesn't sing. It just cuts to him kissing Arwen.
I like the singing, but I like it when he stops the singing.
Vigo, get on the ground.
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely number 1.
Wow, that was a trip experience right there. Love that.
That was.
There you go. I'll go because we did that with the characters there. So my number 5th scene. This was tough. I feel like even top 3, top 4, I was pretty certain on. 5, there's just like a selection of like a bunch of runner-ups and everything like that. But I picked at the end of Fellowship when Sam tries to swim to Frodo. I think that's like the ultimate
nice.
act of friendship. It's how it's shot, the score. My goodness, the score when he's floating there and that hand's in there. Howard Shore's score, which is taking place at a shore, is just phenomenal. And I just love it. Because I also remember, as I think we told us in Retro, when I was a kid, just thinking like, man, Sam's not going to make it. Like, we're losing another member here. And I was sad because it's like, he's going to lose his best friend here. And then Frodo saves him. And just that thing of he knows the risk and he knows what he could be sacrificing, but he's going to go with his friend. And he made a promise. So I appreciate that one. I specifically put Gandalf's death. I know it could be like the fight scene with the Balrog. That kind of technically counts, but I think it's more just that, like him saying, fly, you fools, them getting pulled out, and like we talked about, everyone's reaction to it. Again, a big scene for me that happened when I thought he had fully died and he wasn't coming back. But I still think the impact, and I still think that just puts that in perspective of our characters. Because, of course, they're in danger, but this is the first time they lose a member of their own, and now it's changed. Now, if the stakes weren't there before, it's like, man, we just lost Gandalf, who's who's the most powerful character or, person on our roster of the Fellowship, and we just lost him. So, and everything too. It's cinematic, him yelling the Balrog and Elijah Wood crying in the background and all this stuff, and Aragorn just kind of taking leadership. Really good stuff there. Number 3, I put Helm's Deep. Now, like Dylan said, what could you do? Because that is like an hour, whatever, 45-minute sequence. Specifically, I think I would just put the very beginning where it's them in the rain, looking everybody down. You get the scene setting. You get Gimli asking for the box, and you just get like the drumming and them like getting ready. You get like the arrows kind of getting ready, stuff like that. So I'd say the start of Helm's Deep, if you want me to be specific. Obviously, that sequence I think might be the best sequence of the entire trilogy, just the way it's shot and how cinematic, the score, everything. But I think the beginning, because right when Theoden says it begins, kind of around that area of the rain, it just looks so cool and it looks irky and stuff. Boromir's death, I'd say specifically, because it's a little bit of a longer scene. I think the speech him and Aragorn have again. I got 3 Fellowship of the Rings scenes in here. You go back to the Retro. I talked about how much I loved that conversation. That was like, I think the biggest character development Aragorn has in that moment. But I think it just also humanizes Boromir so much about asking about the little ones, apologizing for Frodo, saying that he failed like his father, his people, like Aragorn. Like there's all these great emotional stuff, and Aragorn showing how he could be a leader. So that scene's fantastic. And then my number 1, very similar to Taylor's. I didn't be specific. I just put the coronation of Aragorn. You can kind of put all of that, but like I feel like that scene's short enough where he gets the crown, he kisses Arwen, and then you bow to no one. That's still just the ultimate scene where it's just like, man, we made it. It's the ultimate good guys winning, feeling like they did it. So yeah, the coronation of Aragorn, not the indoctrination, not the whatever we went through many terms in Return of the King. Yeah, that is my top 5.
Love it.
Inauguration. I think that's what I said.
Right, inauguration. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kirk.
Yeah, I'll go this again with the characters list. This one was extremely hard for me. I had 13 total. I narrowed it down to 5, but like even so, I feel like you asked me on another day and I could totally shuffle all like this whole list around. Like for how perfect this trilogy is to like narrow down 5 scenes, it's like an impossible task, but I'll give it a try. So starting, I guess, at the bottom to descend or ascend, whatever the terminology we decided on.
Still debating.
Number 5, I have Helm's Deep. I just wrote Helm's Deep, but I think I'll go same with Travis, specifically the opening, just like how quiet it is to like the build up to the Urukai showing up, and it's just terrifying. But like I could also say scenes after that moment. I could also say scenes before that moment. You know, like the old meme that we all love. That I'll pull up right there. You know, like that particular scene, and just like how screwed everyone feels. I feel like just Helm's Deep as a whole.
For the listeners, Kirklin pulled up the Jordan
Yeah.
Peele Speaking in Elvish.
Sorry.
I Will Die is one of them. You know,
I didn't mention it. Inside joke.
Don't want to 1 star.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, Helm's Deep, and then number 4, I have the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, like Taylor mentioned. It's just again like the Balrog showing up, just how godlike this being is. Like it's just so huge. Like if it was coming up to any one of those like great soldiers, whether it's Aragorn, Legolas, Boromir, Gimli, like they stand no chance. But then like this old man Gandalf just like stands up and isn't equal to it. Like it's just such an epic moment. Remember it so well from a kid too. Like the first time I saw that, it just again it left a mark on me. It was so epic. So yeah, number 4, and then number 3, I have the Weathertop scene here with the Nazgul showing up. Yeah, I love how like basically screwed the hobbits are in the scene. Like they're just so not like they have the courage to stand up to the Nazguls, but they're just so not equipped. Like Boromir wouldn't be equipped, to like fight these things, let alone like these little halflings. So it's just such a terrifying scene when they all come in, like they're completely surrounded. The score is, it's like bone chilling just hearing it. And then of course Aragorn shows up and saves the day, and that's where like also when Frodo gets stabbed and you see the Nazgul in their like true form, it's just so freaky because you think that they're already freaky enough, and then he puts the ring on and they're like there with him, like he can't escape it. It's just such an intense scene. So number 3. So number 2 now, I have the farewell Boromir moment. So Parth Galen, basically when he's in Aragorn's arms, like it's a tearjerker. I won't go too deep on it because Travis already mentioned basically everything I would say there. It's
When he gets looted,
he gets looted.
New bracer.
That's all I think about now when they put him in the boat. Like, what shit did they take from him?
They took his shoes. No, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's such a gut wrenching moment for me, and I love it so much.
And the score, man, the score again too.
Yeah, no,
Howard
100%. Howard scores. Oh my gosh.
Howard Score is what they call him on the street. Just Howard Score,
Score.
The score man.
And my number 1 scene, I felt pretty okay with putting this my number 1. I just went with the prologue, the One Ring to Rule Them All.
That's a good one, damn.
Like the opening scene, I just think that's such a perfect explanation of where we're at in this world. It's so phenomenal. Again, like the score is amazing. Like in those scenes, it veers on us a little adventure because it starts pretty like fellowship type theme, and then it goes into like a really intense battle sequence, obviously when they're marching on Mordor. But yeah, it's just such a great opening. I love it so much. So yeah, narrowed down my list to 5. Tough task, but I think I did pretty good.
Yeah, this was very difficult for me as well. Like I just wrote down a bunch that came to mind, and I came up with like 25, like 30 different scenes. Like how many trilogies? And I mean, these are pretty much all from the trilogy, of course. So it's like how many things can you point to of like having that many iconic scenes? Like it's pretty cool stuff. So a couple honorable mentions. The beacons are lit. Not like this one has no dialogue to it. I mean, obviously that's an Aragorn line in the movie, but like none of the dialogue part, but just those landscape shots of all the beacons, just iconic. Love that. Smeagol turning into Gollum, like that prequel part, but specifically when it's like him going through the phases of being more and more decrepit is like peak horror. Like it's terrifying. Good stuff there. Taylor mentioned this one about Pippin singing as Gondor sieges, I guess, Osgiliath. Very, very good scene. And then shouts to Eowyn defeating the Witch King of Angmar. I think it's a bit too short for me. I guess if you blew it out to be more of the Battle of Gondor Fields, what is it called again, Kirklin, the official name?
The Battle of Pelennor Fields.
There you go. If it was like that whole thing, obviously that'd be a big part of it. But anyway, into my top 5. This one, well, okay, quick spoiler. I think my top 4 are ones that, like, before we did the whole retro, I could have been like, oh, those are some of my favorite scenes, and I'm glad that I still feel that way after going through all these. I think this one is one that's really affected me more in recent times. I don't know if it's just me changing as a person, but this scene really, really hit me this time, and that's when Frodo and I guess the rest of the hobbits are back in the Shire, and just all the lines that Frodo has there just hit me. It's not like a sadness, but it's just like a pit in my stomach of this feeling that he has. You could extend that to him like leaving Middle-earth as well, that scene when they're at the docks, but even just that like smaller sequence I think just hits so hard. So shouts to that. I called it Frodo's Melancholy is what I wrote down as the name of that scene. Number 4, I wrote down the Battle in the Mines of Moria. Now, obviously, this is like a very long sequence as well. You guys all brought this up and mentioned like the Khazad-dûm part with Gandalf falling. And that's obviously great as well. But I think I would actually go more for the beginning of it, specifically when they go into the tomb. Gimli is freaking out when he finds the tomb,
Balin.
I guess. Yeah, of his whoever it is, cousin, but dad, can't remember. But then, the moment with Pippin knocking down the chain and the bucket and the skeleton and all that stuff, the slow drums, Gandalf reading the text, and then I love that battle, setting up the doorway. Everything about it is fantastic. So I specifically shout out that part of it. Number 3 for me, I mentioned this a lot when we were talking about Two Towers, but Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli just tracking down the hobbits. I love those landscape shots. I like the character moments you get between them when they zoom out and Gimli is like way behind. Just the little things of them using their various tracking skills. Aragorn or Legolas kind of has some weird stuff too. But I mentioned this on the episode, but like when I think of Lord of the Rings, like often my mind just goes to those scenes. Like I just picture those beautiful landscape shots of New Zealand. Just love that stuff so much. Love a good travel sequence. That's one of the best. So shout outs to that. Number 2, I'm surprised none of you had this on your list, but just the council meeting, forging the fellowship. I think it's the introduction for a lot of these characters. But I think it's a great scene because it gives you a little taste of each of the characters and their personality type, their disposition and all that. Even the hobbits sneaking into the end. You have Gimli kind of being brash and not really thinking things through. And then you kind of see Legolas, as you see Boromir already kind of has some weird stuff about him that you'll get more dug into later. And then, just the iconic shot of them all lining up together and getting officially named the Fellowship. It's great. And then number 1 for me was Battle of the Helm's Deep. Same as Kirkland and Travis here, I would shout the beginning section of it, the start of it, if I had to pick one part. But just that whole thing is iconic. Best battle of all time in cinema. So there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Here's my top 5.
Cinema. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So we did it. We ranked it. Not sure exactly. Oh, Taylor has his fingers up.
I just had like a couple lines I wanted to throw in because I had like favorite lines that were notable. Is that okay if I throw them in?
Absolutely.
I had boil and mash and stick and stupid again, very notable. These are just lines that just
okay.
No, hang on.
That's not we're going in circles.
No. Yeah. I had to say it because that was it. But again, going through all these films, why do you lay these troubles on an already troubled mind? I love that. It's so good. I cut off your head, dwarf, if you stood but a little higher from the ground. Absolutely love that. It's one of Amir's best lines in this trilogy.
Number 9, greatest character of all time.
It's one of his lines in this trilogy, not one of his best.
One of his 9 lines.
Yeah.
Where is Gondor's finest? Where is my firstborn? Will always just be top tier for me. Just mostly because the look that you get from Boromir, just following it.
Where is he? Where's my firstborn?
And then looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. That's just such a weird orc line to say. But it's great.
I don't get why people think it's out of context. There's restaurants, they would have menus. It makes sense to me. Everyone like that was a whole big thing when Rings of Power.
We
like,
talked about this, but would orcs specifically have menus in restaurants?
But they had memories of the past, right? Because they used to be like people or elves and shit like that, right?
Yeah.
So they at one
it's
point,
fair. It is fair. Yeah.
They're in a restaurant. Like if I died and I came back as an orc, I'd still know that I once got meat off a menu. You know?
I don't think Peter Jackson thought about that.
No,
I think he thought it was a
didn't.
great line. He thought it was fun. It was a nice quip.
Like,
that's why I put it
back
in
on the menu.
I don't think he put it in there as like a big lore hit of like, oh, the deep cut fans are gonna love that this guy specifically owned a restaurant back in Rohan, and he's gonna remember.
He's like explaining it to the Urukai actor. The guy's like, whatever. Like, can I just say the line and get out of this fucking costume? I'm sweating, man. I've lost 15 pounds since I put this makeup on. But
it's like I don't think you feel the character's motivation.
Yeah. He once went to a menu or once went to a restaurant. There was a menu. Oh,
they literally starved them for 3 stinking days before that scene. Of course, yeah, to make them fully immersed. Yeah,
that was It was shot like what's it called? With hidden
real
camera. What's it called?
Found footage.
yeah, retro.
Yeah. Fuck, retro. I forget the term. Candid. There you go.
Oh yeah.
Candid.
It's not actually. It's all this stuff on the menu, and on the menu,
Yeah.
it's all stuff that they caught behind the scenes. So that line of meats back on the menu is actually improv. And remember all those
in the cafeteria.
Remember those memes last year? Remember those memes last year when it was like the guy Matthew Lillard who plays Shaggy? He's like, yeah, it wasn't even the script. I just like did this. That's what this was, and they just killed an actor and actually ate him on set.
Christ.
That's like when they put the special thanks to. It was the guy that they chopped his head off, and they're like, yeah, we don't know what happened to him.
Fuck.
It's just a little
I just
bite.
love that visual. They're like so hot wearing these prosthetics. Going to the cafeteria. It's just maggoty bread.
Sorry, no meat on the menu today, boys. It's been 36 days.
They won't let me take off this makeup.
It's like melted and encrypted to their body. You know? Look at Andy Serkis. He gets this little suit. He gets to take it off every time he goes home. We're in this for 3 stinking weeks. And that's why they had those problems for Hobbit, right? That's why they CGI'd him and stuff. So,
Fuck, that's funny.
all right, we'll take another break to separate to the news because we're a little longer here. So last break actually this time, and then we'll be right back with 2 pieces of news. So we'll be right back. And we're back. So speaking of, let's talk about Rings of Power. So Rings of Power, I don't know where to go with this story, but like whatever, I'm going to say it. So Amazon on Friday or whatever, they're doing this whole 25 million people watched Rings of Power, all this stuff. I didn't believe it. Now, there's probably there's some things of like people looked at it for 2 seconds and that was correct. But Samba, who is the one that tracks things down, as always, Samba does not track every single TV because people don't always watch it on TV that has Samba. Or, like my TV has Samba. I said yes, but I could have said no, please don't track my TV. But it can get ratings. So what it came up in as like a 1.8. So that's like around... I think that's the tie for like Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Moon Knight and stuff like that. Tiff, I gotta ask you, are you surprised it's kind of doing like those type of numbers? Did you think it would do lower? Do you think it would do bigger? Where were you on that?
I thought it would be doing bigger, to be honest. Like, it's funny because when I was thinking about this earlier, I was just wondering, like, in the essence of when things release, whether it's just the right time or is it based on just like people are... The void needs to be filled and people want something like Lord of the Rings. I feel like when Lord of the Rings came out, like it just wasn't anything really like that cinematically. So it just like people were latched in. It was the right time. So now when you have this, like we have, we've gone through Lord of the Rings, we've gone through Game of Thrones, gone through The Hobbit. We've had all these different iterations, and I'm not sure if was it the right time. There's so many different shows people are juggling around right now between Disney Plus and HBO, Crave, whatever, and now this. It just makes me wonder the timing of it, and maybe that's one of the big factors in how it's doing right now. Because again, I would have thought it would have been doing a lot better. Now, a few people that I did speak to, again, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm
You speak to other people about this stuff. You're only supposed to speak to us.
I know it's in my contract.
People have to pay for your thoughts too.
You get first dibs on your thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, copyright. it's funny because like a lot of people were away for the weekend and
that's
even leading the weekend, so they weren't able to actually sit down and watch the show, and that was a big takeaway. And like there's some people that are probably getting back, first day back today, going back to work, all that kind of stuff, and probably still people that haven't even been able to sit down and enjoy it because they're just getting settled back into their work week and all that jazz. So I can see why it'd be a little bit delayed. I do think those numbers will pick up, especially if we get like a banger episode in that episode 3 or something like that, enough to generate the buzz and the hype. I think they'll kind of turn around. But just to kind of like allot it with some of those like Disney Plus shows where it's kind of sitting at, it does surprise me, but only to a certain point. Because of everything else.
See, like I'm surprised. Like I think you make it sound like it's a lot like lower than it actually is, and I don't think it's bad. I think the only thing that makes it feel lower is because you got Game of Thrones that is like rocking like a near 5 million, and that they did that. This was after like a few days. I think it was the first 5 days or what? No, what is because it came on Thursday, so Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday, Tuesday. So yeah, 5 days where Game of Thrones did nearly 5 million in 6 hours, And that just to me, I don't think that shows, I know people compare that, like that was the big meme. I don't think that shows like, oh, this show is like lacking behind. I think that just shows how big Game of Thrones still actually is and how people talk about it. I think it's a good number. Is it still surprising to me that like, yeah, like the Loki show would have done better in its first week? Yeah, but at the same time, no, because like, same thing as MCU, it's like, it's all the rage right now. And plus like, whatever you want to say about it's good that I like these actors and stuff, especially the woman who plays Galadriel. None of these people are names. It's not like Tom Hiddleston. You have Tom Hiddleston leading that, so I still think I was still thinking it would have been almost around that Loki range, like at least a 2 million and stuff for like the first 5 days, especially. But I will be interested to see like if it is like you said the weekend, or if it's just that was even 2 episodes, right? People might look and go, oh, that's 2 hours. I don't have time to, if I'm going to watch one, I'm going to need to watch the other. And I will be interested too, to see like, are people interested in a prequel of these characters? I think so. I think 1.8 million is a good number. I don't know what Amazon thinks about that because they spent $1 billion on the show. So that's up to them to decide whether they're happy with that or not. But Taylor?
Do you think, and this is just another side thought, that if that episode 1 just gave us like a half an hour prologue of just like the elves coming over, just doing all out war, instead of like the 30-second like synopsis or like whatever you want to call it, like quick notes or whatever, flashcards, just kind of going through that battle and stuff, do you think that it would have generated a lot more buzz, that people would have been talking like, oh, we got like Sauron, this big battle, it was so crazy? And
I think so, yeah. I think I don't think the show needed that, but I think if you had, I think that's one thing where I think people talk about, I'm in the same camp where it is like a bit slower. Where House of Dragons, obviously they've had these big moments already in each episode, right? I agree with you. I think the show will have that, but when that image came up, the Eagles and the Falcons fight, and I did want like at least even 10 minutes of that. So it could be something like that, but I don't know if that's the key thing, because I don't know if that would have spread quick enough for people to watch it, but I'm not sure. What do you take from these numbers, Dylan? Much ado about nothing, good, bad?
Yeah, it's interesting because it sounds like the number that you have there, 1.8, that sounds like the absolute minimum that it could be, right? In terms of like, I'm sure that number,
it's definitely higher. Yeah,
I'm sure that number does not factor in, like I saw it in theaters, like my number would not count to that unless it's factoring in all those theater showings they did. And as you're saying, like people can opt out of that. So I'd be curious. There's a truth between 25 million that Amazon says and this 1.8 that this other tracking company says, and I'd be really curious to see what that number is. And I'd be super curious to see like what is the percentage of people that watched episode 2 after 1, like how many people made the jump over there as well. And how many people just clicked on it for 5 minutes or something. Like I'd love to have like deeper stats. It'd be interesting to break all of that down, but I feel like it's got to be higher than 1.8. I would expect it to be like at least 2 or 3 times that, but I don't know. I don't really keep too close eyes on like the numbers of TV shows and stuff. I just feel like Lord of the Rings is such a big name, and those movies won however many Oscars and stuff like that. And I know Hobbit is maybe a black mark on it in terms of people's hype level, I guess, and it's also been a long time since Lord of the Rings now, but I still feel like a lot of people would want to check that out. And I also just feel like a lot, because of Amazon Prime, whereas Disney Plus, you're signing up specifically for these shows among, watching your other movies and stuff. But so many people have Amazon Prime just kicking that they're like, I'll check it out. Taylor, you made a good point, too, of this weekend in particular. I'm sure a lot of people were away. I know I was away camping as well, but of course I was going to make time for Lord of the Rings, but a lot of people maybe didn't have that opportunity, so maybe those numbers could be higher in the future. But Yeah, I'm really curious to see the follow through of next week and the weeks after that, and I hope it does really well because I want more of this, and so far I'm really liking it, obviously. But yeah, I guess if it truly is 1.8, or even if it's like 2 million, like close to that, I think I'd be surprised that it seems quite low for me, and yeah, definitely below what Amazon would expect if they're touting 25 million somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I pretty surprised. Just like off the hop, it didn't do a little bit better. Like, yeah, we cleared it up that like 1.8 would be the lowest, but still, like I would have expected it to be one of those super big hit shows. And who knows? Maybe it'll get there. Maybe it'll be that thing where it's got that snowball effect. It'll just keep growing. Like the more buzz, word of mouth, like people are back at school. Maybe people are done with their summer plans, back to
If
work.
the stranger
so.
is Gandalf, like that will get people into the show, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like these big things, and also just the quality of those first 2 episodes, like visually, I think looked fantastic. So if it just keeps on that par, which I have no reason to believe it wouldn't be, I think it will be that thing that it does grow. So I'm not really like worried like with those numbers. I'm not like a big numbers guy either. I think it's just one of those things that because it's such a big show, I was still curious as to what it was on opening night. But yeah, if I have any predictions, I think it'll definitely ramp up as the series goes on. And who knows, maybe it'll take a turn and actually be really bad, and then like the numbers will go the opposite direction, which obviously would be very tragic. But yeah, it is Lord of the Rings, but it's also like a completely different era than like people aren't seeing like Frodo and Sam, and like Gandalf. There's the stranger guy, but it's not really like clear what he is. So I think it's totally fair to or maybe let me rephrase that. Maybe it's a little bit unfair to assume just because it has the Lord of the Rings tag, it would have just like had all these people hyped on it. But I don't know. It's tough to say because, like Dylan mentioned, it is Amazon Prime. Everybody and their grandma has Amazon Prime these days. Like it's right there, easily accessible. But yeah, I'm
gonna Google how many people are on Amazon Prime. Very curious.
And yeah, like Dylan was saying, all these numbers that we get from Samba are always lower than what it is. So something like when we talk about Falcon Winter Soldier being 1.8, that's very likely over 2 million, maybe even higher than that. It's just this is always taken from the same pool of people, so it's never an exact range. Just kind of gives a range of, okay, out of these, let's say 10 million people that have said yes to Samba, or however the number is, how many people are watching said show and stuff like that. Like I was somebody where when we did WandaVision stuff, I didn't have Samba, but now with the Sony TV, it asked me if I wanted to. So like even within the next year, I became a Samba person, right, and everything like that. So it's like there's times where they're not tracking that at all. But
looks like they had over 200 million last year.
Yeah,
subscribers on Amazon Prime. So that's a lot of people to just have in your net potentially. That even if they didn't know about it, they just logged on Amazon to buy some batteries or something, and they're like, "Oh, new Lord of the Rings show, I'm gonna check that out."
I came for batteries, but look at that. Lord of the Rings.
I'm here for the
Staying
stranger.
for Gandalf,
Yeah, they would think that's Gandalf, right? He's gray and everything. But yeah, and well, speaking of stuff related to Warner Brothers, because they made Lord of the Rings, but not really. My transition is so we did a couple. You can go back weeks. Well, actually, you don't need to go back weeks ago because the legend of Big Dan Lin is already over. We did a big cast about this. Me and Kirklin and we talked about, hey, there's this guy, he's a producer, all this stuff. It was looking good, but then for some reason, more will come out in the next coming weeks. But just wanted to add in the news that he had apparently passed, or it's a combination of he had passed or they could not reach an agreement. And obviously the internet's of a buzz with, well, did they not give him a creative control, this, that, blah, blah. So this company. But either way, it looks like DC is still looking for a new head, whoever it may be. And it's unfortunate because I think if you listen to that episode, like putting the Big Dan Lin aside, like we had lots of fun. And now I'm bummed that meme is just dead now because we'll never. Yeah, I feel like we're gonna follow Big Dan Lin,
and then he's like, "I'm out now." No,
yeah. I don't want to be part of this. I don't want to be this part of this community. But like,
if you go on his IMDb, he still is producing like 10 things that are coming out. So you can still be a Dan Lin guy. Okay?
I was gonna say, anytime now he's producing, and I see it. Like that's the thing when we see, like he's producing, I think Lilo and Stitch. When I see the credits, I see Dan Lin. I'm always gonna think of Big Dan Lin. So he's always gonna be Big Dan Lin. Like we're definitely gonna be talking about stuff he does. But as far as him running DC, that's a no-go. And obviously it's kind of interesting because it just feels like almost every day we go without another DC head. It's not like, oh my God, the clock is ticking, but it's like we don't have that. We're all just waiting for that guidance. We're waiting for the one person to be like, okay, this is the map. This is where we're going. Are we rebooting? Are we not? This and that. Obviously, Black Adam is, there will be a trailer out this Thursday, it sounds like, and we will cover that and just probably like a cutout and stuff. But, I know there's not much to go up, but any thoughts on losing Big Dan Lin here? It seemed like, and here's the biggest quote that I think a Scooper did put out that I do agree with, and that's why the issue is, running DC was Dan Lin's dream, and if he passed up on it, not the greatest sign. Obviously, that could be a lack of money and stuff like that. But usually, when people have like a dream project, you might go, oh, I'll spare a few, shekels there, whatever to like get the gig and stuff like that, but it's not looking like it's happening. Well, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's
not looking like it.
like our
Definitely
cast
not.
that we did, like you highlighted that, Travis, like we had a good discussion, and I think we're pretty positive because we highlighted a lot of things I think that we could like looked hopeful, like optimistically to the future with if he got the job. And now being in this situation where that's not the case, like I saw you shared, I wouldn't have seen it otherwise, but you shared that post earlier today on Twitter. I thought, oh shit, like that is really, really shitty because like I was looking forward. I like a lot of things that he's worked on, a lot of his past projects. And so now,
Do you remember what was attached to that post when I shared it?
The gift that you...
God, what are you showing me? Come on!
Oh,
Just that one right there.
fucking got me. But yeah, it is truly a shame. I am disappointed by it, and Warner Brothers is just doing some weird things. I am not fully sure what their game plan is. I'd love to just sit down with Zaslav and just like hear him out. Just listen to like what he's got. Like let him pull out his little journal and be like, okay, start telling me what your notes are. Yeah. I want to know these things. So
You call him Little David Zaslav.
little
I'm
Zaslav.
down with that. Let's make that a thing.
Little
Big Dan
David
Lin,
Zaslav.
Little Zaslav.
Yeah, it's little Zaslav.
I mean, I'll never get to have this discussion with him, unfortunately, but
Don't say
it
never.
would be what?
Don't say never,
You think there's a chance?
What if we make these GeekVerse movies and they're like, you know what, we need you guys to direct
Warner Warner
Clayface.
Brothers? No.
Yeah, we should turn 'em
They'll
down.
get us the
We're
whole
better
movie,
than Little Zaslav.
and then they're gonna
Or-
cancel it right when we enter
It's
like
gonna-
Yeah.
final production.
Yeah.
Zaslav's gonna call us and be all pissed off. Be like, we had Dan Lin, but you guys scared him away with your big Dan Lin talk, and now he doesn't want to do it.
Now The Rock's running
And
DC.
now Warner Bros. Has the rights to GeekVerse, so we can't continue the podcast. That would be,
Yeah.
that's the worst timeline right there.
Yeah, but at the same point, if we're making a superhero project, I feel like Feige's not going to trust us all. Where Zaslav, maybe there's a chance. He's like, fuck it, let's just risk with these guys. Feige, like I'm willing to play ball, but I just don't know if he's going to look at us and be like,
He won't
I
give
don't
us our
know.
creative.
I think he
freedom.
would.
you didn't
Warner
like my
Bros,
Ralph
they're-
Boner joke. That was my favorite joke of the MCU, and you guys bring it up all the time.
Warner Bros will keep Henry Cavill from us. Won't be able to use him. We'll only be able to use Dwayne Johnson.
Well,
maybe.
as you can look at, Travis told you, I really don't know what's going on because both sides are very strong right now. Yeah, it sounds like he's in Black Adam, and lots of people are like, yeah, it sounds like he's going to be in Marvel. So I'm like, how did it go from he's not going to be Superman or Marvel to he's going to be in both in like the last few weeks? Now I don't believe any of them till I see them. But
Oh, yeah.
still.
Sounds like a good article headline. You get
Yeah.
some clicks. Yeah.
Yeah, Dylan. Also, you weren't on that cast, so you didn't get to do the deep dive into Big Dan Lin like we did. I'm not sure if you looked into his history or whatnot.
I've cruised
but-
his IMDb.
Yeah, so he was
that's
a
their program.
storied. I won't say story. That sounds like a bit too heavy and stuff like that. But I had a good track record. But seems like he is past the chance and said no, thank you. I'm gonna keep doing my own thing. And they've been through a couple names already before. This was one that, and lots of the A-tier scoopers were kind of like, oh, it should be like the reason they were reporting it because it was sounding really good. Like, oh, he should be getting a deal at any point. And it just sounds like whatever that deal is, whether it's money, creative, a little bit of both. It did not satisfy his juices
Yeah.
or something.
I got a quick question, which is that I know in the GeekVerse community, Big Dan Lin, obviously the meme exists and people want it now. But was that a general wider thing across people in like this space? Like, were a lot of people wanting him, looking at his career and saying like he would be a great pick? Like, let's get him in there.
I think
Where would you put the
majority.
gauge on that?
I'd say like a solid 8.5 out of 10. Okay. There's the only two things I heard about him is he's a safe pick or he hates Snyder fans because he made some joke about Snyder fans being bots, but it was a very like loose joke. But that was like
I'm not a fan of Snyder fans either. You know, I'll put it out there. Come at me.
Yeah, so like he made this joke and stuff like that. But I feel like it was pretty positive because I feel like the news today has been pretty negative as far as people being like bummed because they just want someone to move forward, but two, I think people are like, if it's gonna be a guy, it's worth a shot, and that's not happening. So.
Yeah, I think I'll be coming at this from a more neutral position, which is that to me, like just the role of producer in like a Feige space, I understand what that means, but generally that is such a nebulous term that like I can look at his IMDb, Dan Lin, I can see what he's worked on, and I'd see mostly good stuff. Like there's your Death Notes, your It Chapter 2's in there, but for the most part, it is good stuff. But like I don't know if that means that he would have been good at this job. Like it's just it's so hard for me to make that jump in logic and. So in that way, I'm feeling more neutral on it. And you know what? If people really like this guy now all of a sudden, then you probably don't want him over at DC because that's such a shit show. Like, are we going to trust whoever Zaslav and team pick? Like, are we trusting that, oh, they actually made a good decision here and this is going to be the successful thing that's going to last? It's going to be successful, all this stuff. Well, like, do we have faith in that level of ownership that they're going to like pick the right guy anyway?
To that point, for a counterpoint, when all this stuff was reported, that apparently Alan Horn was the guy that was a big fan of Dan Lin, and that was Kevin Feige's boss over at Disney. So people took that as, if Alan Horn's saying this guy's a good guy, we could trust Alan Horn. Maybe not little Zaslav, but we could we could trust
little baby Zaslav.
We could trust the Hornmeister. So
the Hornmeister, yeah. So I mean that's a good counterpoint, but I think I see it as like a positive for Dan, whether or not how much it was his choice, how much it was Warner Bros. Choice, but I think it's just such a shit show to walk into that it might not be the best thing. And he got like the best thing out of this, which is 2 weeks ago, no one knew who he was.
True.
I'm of course exaggerating, but now everyone knows who he is, and people are going to keep an eye on him. They're going to be interested, and I'm sure someone smart like a Feige or something like that is going to like see the fervor that fans had for this guy and think like, let's try this guy out, bring him on, and he'll produce Fantastic Four or something like that, see what he can do there, and maybe he would join that family or go on to do something else as well. So I feel like if anything, he just went up the food chain a bunch without having to do anything at all. So that's pretty good for him. Yeah, it's a bummer for the fans, but I think for anyone who is bummed about this, just I would say keep in mind that it's really nebulous how much of an impact he would have really had anyway, especially if whatever decision he makes. I know the talks was that they want to get someone who kind of is working independently and wouldn't necessarily be under Zaslav, but this guy, such a fucking ego on him, Zaslav, so little, even though he has huge ego that, I mean, who knows? Whatever, like maybe every decision Dan would have had, half of them would have been cut down by him anyway and whatnot. So it's just such a mess that I don't know how they're going to get out of it. It gets worse and worse by the day. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I'm at with the Dan Lin thing. Feeling neutral on it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Ben McClay says Emma Watts is next, right? That was the other name that was thrown on Dan Lin. I really hope not, because she's only produced
Emma
The Tooth
Watts.
Fairy. She's only produced Dame Wayne Johnson's Tooth Fairy. Now she's done other. I won't say only.
So she's got history with The Rock, then.
She's got history with The Rock, but she's done other things in
Alita
Hollywood.
Battle Angel.
Yeah, like she's been
that
like
was a movie.
Yeah.
Oh, iRobot. I love iRobot. What are you talking about,
That's a
Travis?
good one.
Yeah, but no, she's only been like as far as like the main producer, only the Tooth Fairy. But yeah, no, she's done a lot of other things. She worked with Universal Paramount, but yeah, I hope not. But yeah, Kirklin, what are you feeling with the loss of Big Dan Lin here? Also, we're going to talk about when stuff comes out. We'll make sure a review to mention. But as far as him being our guiding light to DC,
yeah,
it's not happening.
Yeah, I feel like I'm mostly sided with Dylan on this, where I'm just like pretty neutral. Doesn't really keep me up at night, the fact that we're losing Dan Lin. However, I was like optimistic, just like going off of his track record, and it seemed like it was just like a nice fit. Like when we talked about it on that cast, it just made sense on paper to me for it to work. So if it was him that said he didn't want to do it, I don't know if it's because they talked about a little bit more about what his role would be and he didn't like it, or who knows? Maybe he doesn't want to do it. Maybe maybe he's got a family or something. There's millions of different reasons why he wouldn't want to have the role. I am also a little bit disappointed that I won't be jumping on newscasts and talking about Big Dan Lin too much. Those are always fun. So little bit sad with the meme loss there, but
Yes.
for the big Dan Lin loss. But yeah, no, for losing him as this potential new head of was it just head of Warner Brothers? I don't even remember. Was it just the
For Dan Lin's
Feige
job?
role?
Yeah, it would have been the runner of DC because that's the rumor that they want someone to report and not be a part of Warner Brothers. Just they would only report to Zazoff, where before it was a bunch of people and everything like that. So it's like Feige, where he only reports to the main brass at Disney and stuff like that. So, but
yeah, hopefully they find someone soon, just so like get some saneness in the DC realm right now. I think the longer they go without finding someone, I mean, people are just going to keep speculating, but also I feel like DC needs some stability in their lives.
I think Warner Brothers needs some stability.
Warner Brothers,
really.
yes, not DC. Yeah.
Well,
Every
it's
day,
just-
like that, walk into that job gets harder. And I think the longer they take. the worse it gets.
100%, yeah. Which I guess maybe could give someone more leverage, like going into it, as far as like you need someone to be doing this, which could be good for someone paycheck wise. But
True.
they got an interesting like next. Okay, well it's not a month. I'd say like a month and a half. But you got Don't Worry, Darling, which is I don't think it's gonna pop like they want it to, and it's going under a lot of stuff now. And then you got Black Adam, which I think could go kind of either way. And I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting, like Monday morning, if Black Adam kind of like underperforms or something, and then like what's next, and yeah. But we'll be here talking about what's next, and we'll be talking about whoever the next rumored head is to run DC and save it or something. But this was fun. Good rankings. Good little news discussion. We'll be back tomorrow talking. Maybe if there's any little news, but then we'll be doing some town hall questions and stuff like that. It'll be fun talking about the future. And then we got She-Hulk, The Rings of Power, D23. Good week coming up. Definitely won't be boring.
Spicy.
Bye-bye.